It started like any other quiet afternoon at the local precinct. Officers were finishing up paperwork, sipping lukewarm coffee, and barely paying attention when the call came in. A report of an elderly black man loitering outside a downtown cafe. Nothing alarming, just someone who seemed out of place. Within minutes, 2 officers were dispatched to check it out. What they didn't expect was an old man, dressed in worn boots and a weathered jacket, standing silently, staring into the distance. When asked for ID, he calmly handed over a military veteran card, but something about his silence made them uneasy. They asked more questions, but he didn't say much. He wasn't rude, just quiet. They ran his name through the system, nothing flagged, but instead of letting him go, they decided to bring him in. Maybe to scare him a little, maybe because he didn't seem scared at all. In the holding cell, he sat straight-backed, hands folded, like a soldier waiting for orders. Half an hour later, everything changed. Black SUVs rolled up to the station. Men in suits walked in like they owned the place, FBI agents. No one said a word as they showed their badges and demanded to see the man. The officers were stunned. "Do you know who you just arrested?" one of the agents asked, eyes sharp and voice low. The room fell into a tense silence. No one knew what to say. Something about this old man was clearly far beyond what they thought. Whatever was going on, it was big. Bigger than a loitering complaint. Bigger than a routine arrest. And as the agents stepped into the holding room, everyone was about to find out just who this man really was. The agents didn't say much as they walked past the front desk. Their eyes looked straight ahead, their pace calm but urgent. One of them, a tall man in a grey suit, had a file in his hand, thick and worn at the corners. The officer at the desk tried to ask what this was about, but the agent just held up his badge again and said, "We need to speak to the man you brought in. Now." Inside the holding cell, the old veteran hadn't moved an inch. Still sitting with perfect posture, still calm, still silent. When the agents entered, he slowly looked up. For the first time, a flicker of recognition passed across his face. Not fear, just awareness. One agent stepped forward and gave a slight nod, almost like a salute. That moment made the whole room feel heavier, like something important was happening, something nobody fully understood yet. Back at the front desk, the officers whispered to each other, trying to figure out who this man really was. They started digging deeper into his name, but still nothing came up. No criminal record, no recent address, no emergency contacts. Just a list of old military assignments, most of them marked as classified. One of the younger officers, clearly shaken, muttered, "I think we messed up." More agents arrived. They asked to see the body cam footage, the incident report, anything related to the arrest. No one raised their voice, but the pressure in the room kept growing. Whispers turned into worried stares. Who had they arrested? And why did the federal government care so much about a quiet, old man who hadn't even broken the law? Outside, the sun was starting to set, but inside that station, the night was only just beginning. One of the senior officers, Lieutenant Harper, had been in law enforcement for over 20 years, but he'd never seen anything like this. He stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching as the FBI quietly took control of the situation. He didn't like being left in the dark, especially not in his own station. He pulled one of the agents aside and asked, "What's going on here? Who is this guy?" The agent glanced at him for a moment, then replied flatly, "Need to know." That was it. No names, no explanations, just those 2 words that made Harper's gut twist. Meanwhile, Officer Daniels, one of the cops who had arrested the old man, kept replaying the body cam footage on his phone. The arrest hadn't been aggressive, but looking at it now, it felt wrong. The man hadn't resisted, he hadn't argued, he just complied, like someone who'd seen worse. Daniels noticed something else too. In one frame, just before they placed him in the squad car, the man had slipped something small into his coat pocket. Daniels hadn't seen it at the time. Now it stuck out like a red flag. At the same time, back in the holding room, The agents were speaking with the veteran in hushed tones. No raised voices, no arguments, just quiet, serious conversation. One of them showed him a black and white photo. He didn't speak, but his eyes lingered on the image for a long time before he finally gave a single nod. Down the hall, an analyst connected to the FBI had tapped into the station's computers and was scrubbing through old surveillance data, phone logs, even the dispatch records from earlier that day. Whatever they were looking for, they were determined to find it. But no one knew exactly what, or worse, what might happen if they did. By now, the whole station had gone quiet. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations died down. Even the usual clatter of typing had faded. Every officer could feel it. Something big was about to happen. Word had spread fast that the man in holding wasn't just a veteran. He was someone important, someone dangerous maybe, but no one could say why. Lieutenant Harper paced outside the holding room, watching the agents through the small glass window. One of them had opened a briefcase and laid out a set of documents. Another was on the phone, speaking in low, clipped tones. Inside, the old man still hadn't raised his voice once. His calmness was more unsettling than anything. Then, a sudden alert flashed on the station computer. A background hit. Not public, not local. It came from a secured federal database, locked behind levels of clearance none of the local officers had access to. The screen showed a red notice across the top. *** restricted. Level 7 clearance required ***. Whatever file they had triggered, it wasn't meant for anyone in that building to see. Harper leaned in, but the agent quickly stepped over and shut the monitor down. Meanwhile, Officer Daniels quietly pulled Lieutenant Harper aside and showed him the footage frame, the one with the old man slipping something into his coat. They checked his personal items again. It wasn't there. Whatever it was, he'd hidden it well or passed it off without anyone noticing. But why, and to whom? Outside, a second convoy of black vehicles arrived. This time, no markings, no plates. The mood turned colder. Agents in tactical gear stepped out, scanning the area, speaking into earpieces. That's when Harper realized this wasn't just about a mistaken arrest. This was a containment. And whatever they were trying to contain was already inside. Just as the second convoy sealed off the block, the station's power suddenly cut out. Every screen went black. The buzzing lights overhead flickered, then died. For a few seconds, the only sounds were the heavy boots of agents moving quickly through the dark and the low hum of backup generators trying to kick in. Emergency lights bathed the halls in a dim red glow, casting long shadows across the walls. It didn't feel like a coincidence. The old veteran hadn't moved. In the faint light, his face looked different, sharper, more focused. One of the younger agents leaned in, whispering something, and the man finally spoke. His voice was gravelly, low, but firm. "You waited too long." Upstairs, chaos broke out. The secure room, where the restricted files had been accessed, was now locked from the inside. Someone had bypassed the internal system and sealed it. Harper, trying to get control, barked orders, but the FBI team had taken over. One of their lead techs, face pale, called out, "We've got an external trace. Someone's trying to pull data from the servers remotely." That's when the second twist hit. A name appeared on the emergency system's override screen, a name that none of the local officers recognized, but one that made the agents freeze. It was connected to an old covert operation, long buried, from a time before most of them were even in service. And it wasn't the veteran's name. It was the name of a former intelligence officer who was presumed dead. The room felt colder now. The agents exchanged looks, and one of them muttered, "This wasn't supposed to be possible." All eyes turned to the old man. If he wasn't the target, he might have been the warning. And now, whatever was buried all those years ago was coming back. The station doors slammed shut, locked down by the FBI's emergency override. No one in, no one out. Agents moved with urgency now, but not panic. They had trained for this, Just not here, not like this. Inside the holding room, the old veteran slowly rose to his feet for the first time since being brought in. He looked directly at the lead agent and said, "You're chasing ghosts, but some of us never stopped watching." A sudden beep echoed from the hallway. The locked, secure room had been breached, not from outside, but from within. Surveillance cameras flickered back to life, but now they showed something else. Footage from over 2 decades ago. Grainy black and white images of covert missions, denied operations, names and faces long erased from records. And there, in frame, was the veteran, young, sharp-eyed, commanding a small team deep behind enemy lines. But he wasn't just a soldier. He was leading a classified unit that had supposedly gone rogue. The twist? One of the agents in the room now, Agent Kessler, had been in those videos too. Only he was on the opposite side. A silence dropped like a bomb. The old man turned toward Kessler, calm as ever. "I didn't come here to be found," he said. "I came here to see who would show up when I finally did." Kessler reached for his sidearm, but the other agents stopped him. Too late. The truth was already out. The veteran hadn't been running. He'd been watching, waiting. And when the local cops picked him up, it triggered a chain reaction he knew would bring them all together, one last time. As the FBI let the old man out in silence, no charges were filed. No press releases followed. Just one man, walking free again, with more power in silence than most men had with an army. And still, no one knew what he passed off, or to whom days later. The station was back to business as usual, but the weight of what had happened still hung in the air. Officers whispered about the night the FBI rolled in and the power went out. No reports were ever filed. No details were shared. Just a quiet directive from higher up: don't ask questions. Lieutenant Harper stood by the window of his office, replaying it all in his head. He had seen a lot in his career: violence, lies, regret, but never anything quite like this. A man walks in off a street, says nothing, does nothing, yet changes everything. Harper had ordered the arrest. He thought it was just protocol. But now he understood it had been part of something far deeper, an operation long buried, a test of loyalty and memory, maybe even redemption. Officer Daniels, still bothered by the frame he'd seen, eventually found the item tucked behind a loose flap in the evidence bag, a flash drive. Unmarked. He turned it over to Internal Affairs, but no word ever came back. Some said it held sensitive intelligence. Others believed it was bait, meant to flush out people still hiding in plain sight. As for the old veteran, he was never seen in that town again. But rumors spread fast. Some claimed he'd once been part of an elite unit disbanded after a mission went sideways. Others said he knew secrets that could unravel powerful people. But no one could confirm anything, not even the agents who came for him. What they all agreed on was this: he didn't need to raise his voice to be heard. His silence told the whole story. And for those who listened closely, it was a reminder: not every war ends on the battlefield. Some just change uniforms and wait.